Welcome to Garden Delights. I'm Susan Howington, Family Consumer Science Agent with the Henry County Cooperative Extension, partnership with the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension. Today we're going to be talking about bok choy, and we're going to make a stir fry, but we're also going to hear from Frank Hancock, our Agriculture and Natural Resource Agent, and he's going to be talking about that fall garden and what looks so wonderful out there right now. So we'll see you back in just a little bit on Garden Delights. Welcome back to Garden Delights. Today we're going to be talking about bok choy, and it is so good for you. I will tell you, it is a member of the cabbage family, so when you're out, you probably won't see it growing around here because it's going to grow more in warm weather. But it is a wonderful cabbage family that you need to try. So what's so good about this? It is cholesterol free, saturated fat free. It is low in sodium. It is wonderful in vitamin A and vitamin C. You're going to get iron, potassium, folate, all this good stuff out of just one little head right here. And this is about 1.5 pounds. So if you're looking for a recipe and it says 1.5 pounds, one of these heads like this is what you're looking for. Now, as far as selection, when you're looking at the grocery store, you do want to make sure you don't see any bruises. You're looking for firm, because you can eat all of this part right here, the stem part, the leaves. You want those firm, you want those green and crispy looking. So that's what you're looking for. And as far as storage, these things will store in about 6 days or so in your refrigerator. And I will tell you this, don't, when you're getting ready to store it, just store it until you get ready to use it, because once you wash it, you need to go ahead and use it. But if you don't wash it, it's going to last in your refrigerator about 6 days, which is wonderful. So this bok choy is really good for you. And remember, it's part of the cabbage family, so it's going to have a nice flavor to it when you cook also to it. It's going to taste really, it's not going to be real strong. It's going to be a real nice taste to it when you when you cook with it. So when we come back, we're going to hear from Frank, and he's going to tell you all those wonderful things that are growing out in that garden right now for that fall vegetables that you're looking for, and you're going to actually see some cabbage that's growing right now in that garden. So we'll see you back in just a little bit on Garden Delights.
Okay, today we're back up here in the garden. We're just sort of keeping a little progress report on how we're doing with our fall garden here. The vegetables are looking good. The broccoli is starting to form heads. We've got some cauliflower that hasn't quite started forming its head yet. Cabbage is starting to form heads. So everything is progressing along. Still got a few pepper plants in here, but they're getting hit pretty hard by the cold, but gardeners didn't want to give up on them until they got all the peppers off of them that they could. So there's a little bit of that still here in the garden. We've tried to minimize our labor for those who want it to be minimized. If you look in this bed right here, we got quite a few weeds growing in this bed, and we'll compare that to a couple of other beds where we put down weed barrier cloth before we planted it. And there's one right over there behind the cameras that doesn't have a weed problem. There's another one down here we'll look at that some of our gardeners are less agile than they once were, like me, and so they have a hard time dealing with their weeds, and some of them even have trouble planting. We've got a couple of beds here for gardeners that got where they just couldn't bend over to plant their garden bed, but they still wanted to garden. A couple of beds we put just a couple of raised beds. We got broccoli in this bed right here, and 2 or 3 things in that bed back over there. That bed is actually worked by a lady who's in a wheelchair. But so we try to accommodate these gardeners and help them as much as we can so they're not spending all their time trying to figure out how to get weeds and that sort of thing out of the garden. Our raised bed, if I move it right over here a little bit closer to it, on this broccoli, we started getting some purple leaves. Now, you know, this time of the year, you always have a few worms that show up to help eat the leaves, but we've kind of got them controlled. And looks like I got a yellow jacket working in here. I think I'll leave him alone. But the leaves started to turn purple, and we don't see that anywhere else in the garden except in these containers. So in trying to figure out what's going on, you know, the first thing you think of with some purple leaves is maybe we got a phosphorus deficiency or something going on. So we did a plant tissue sample, and the plant tissue sample came back good. We got everything is in the right range as far as nutrition for these plants. So our leaf issue is not nutrient related. So the next thing we got to look at is maybe it's stress related. Maybe we've overwatered these plants in this bed, or maybe we haven't watered them enough. We've got both situations going on. We have some pretty good rain here in the fall, but we've also had some pretty good dry spells. So something's going on that's causing that, but at the moment I don't see anything to do about it. Plus, if you look at it, we're forming some pretty good broccoli heads here in this bed. So the broccoli is doing fine. It's just got a little bit of purple tint to some of the leaves. So this material that's in these beds, it's a little bit high in organic matter, but we tested that before we started also. And other than the pH being a little on the high side, we had a good nutrition balance in these beds. So I guess what I'm telling you is I don't know why that leaf turned purple, but we'll enjoy our purple leaves as long as it's forming the broccoli. Other than that, we can walk around here and take a look at some of the things we got growing. You know, we got lettuce that's heading up. We got some kale down here that folks have started harvesting. Each bed, there's about 18 people that work these garden beds, and they all have their own preference as to what they plant. You know, we got some purple cabbage, we got collards, we got some beets down there, we've got some carrots growing. So I think we just kind of take a look around. I want to differentiate the bed that's got the weeds in it. These other beds have had weeds, but the gardeners have hoed them, and so you know, the weeds are not an issue. But in the ones that have not been hoed, you can see that weeds are going to be a problem. So let's just move down here and take a look at some of the beds that we put the weed barrier in. We've also added a lot of organic matter. We had a lot of composted material that we were able to use to build these beds up. And in fact, that's all that's in these tubs is that composted material. So let's just move around the garden here and just take a look at what's going on. Okay, we get up here. Our carrots have come up good. Carrots are a little bit slow to come up. A lot of times folks will plant some radishes in there so they can define their row, but they've done okay by themselves and they've come up well, so I'm expecting we're gonna make some pretty good carrots out of this bed. And you can see our gardeners, they got their own creative style here. They put little square blocks in here when they planted their carrots on this bed. Then if we look over here on the other side, this is one of the beds where we have put down some weed barrier cloth. So the only weeds in this bed are going to be just right between the plants, and they'll be easy to remove. And this bed it's got collards in it down this side. There's a row of kale in the middle that we planted from seed, and it's coming up pretty good. Then we got some broccoli. This particular gardener, he wanted all of his stuff together. So if we ran out of plants and we said, well, why don't we just plant a couple of broccoli in this row, that was not acceptable. So we had to go get a few more collard plants and get them set out. So the broccoli's all in a row by itself. And you can see the contrast here between the weed in this bed and the weeds in the one we looked at over here. And everybody doesn't do that. It's, you know, I don't really care as long as they keep the weeds out. They can do it however they prefer to, but we do make this weed barrier cloth available to them for those that have a hard time getting the weeds out of their garden. Still got a little bit of okra growing in here. Okra will grow right on up until the frost kills it off, so we still got some people that are cutting okra, so some of the beds are not converted over to the fall garden. From here, I guess we're just going to scan around here and look at the rest of the garden. It was planted at different times. You'll see plants in all kind of stages of growth. They've already been eating some of the kale out of this bed right over here. And a few collard leaves have already been picked. And the rest of it is coming along in various stages. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. And I think from here we're going to go inside and see what Susan's fixing.
Welcome back to Garden of Lights. We're going to be making a wonderful fresh vegetable recipe that's going to be so easy but so tasty. And we're going to be using bok choy, and it's a really good cabbage family that we can use in a lot of recipes, not just in this recipe we're going to be using it in, but also soups. And the good thing about this is you can eat it raw, so you don't have to always cook it. But for this recipe, I'm going to go ahead and start and tell you what we have to do. So what I have is I have 2 cups, and this is chicken broth. So I'm going to add this to my skillet. And before I start, I'm going to go ahead and cut to kind of go ahead and get it heated up. In this recipe, it's going to tell you that you're going to need also some garlic. So you're going to put some garlic in this also. Let's see if I can get it out if I can. I'm going to use my spoon because I love garlic. So I'm going to have a little bit of garlic, load that in there. Also, it's going to tell you that you're going to use about a half of an orange. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to the broth. And the oranges are going to actually come out of the water once it all gets going. So that's a good thing. And then we're also going to add about half of an onion. And I have kind of wedged it out. So I'm going to kind of pour that in. And my goal is I want to get this to a boil, and once it gets to a boil, I'm going to simmer it for a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut just cut it up just a little bit to get it going, and this speeds up really fast. So it won't take it long, but we're going to get this to a boil. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you what else is in this recipe. So you're going to get this to a boil, and once it gets to a boil, and that's probably going to take about 5 minutes depending on what you're using. And then once you do that, you're going to be adding some other ingredients to it also. You're going to be adding a can of sliced. These are water chestnuts. We're also going to add about 1/4 of a cup of chopped cilantro. And we're also going to add about 2 cups of rotisserie chicken, or if you don't want rotisserie chicken, you can boil your own chicken breast or whatever you want to add to it. But we're going to add that also toward the end. And then we're also going to end up chopping up the bok choy, and it is going to go in there too. But all we want to do is just to get it a little simmered, a little soft, so when we serve it, it's not going to be a total like you're just taking it and stir frying without any liquid. So I'm going to get this going, and I can see it's already starting to heat up, so I'm going to stir it just a little bit. And you know, the good thing about this recipe is it'll serve about 8 people, and so if you have a large group, you can double this recipe, and it's real easy to double. And the onions are going to really make a nice flavor with it. And you know, bok choy also is a wonderful green to go into your soup. So if you're looking for a different twist during the holidays and you want to add something different, it is a wonderful soup. The Chinese have been using this forever. Over 6,000 years ago, they were using bok choy to cook with. And so a lot of times you will see this in Asian food. And it is getting pretty warm. And I can see it smoking. If you were here, you could even smell how good it smells. So it's smelling really, really good. So I'm just going to keep stirring it just to kind of keep it. I want to get it to a boil, and then I'm going to reduce the heat, and it's getting close. And once it gets to a boil, I'm going to reduce it for another 5 minutes. And what I'm trying to do is get those onions tender. And once they get tender, we will start adding the other ingredients. I'm just going to get my eye up just a little bit. And it smells really good. I tell you, when the broth gets mixed in with that garlic, it smells really, really good. And this type of eye really heats up really fast. It's kind of almost using like a gas stove where you're heating it pretty fast. So that's a good thing, but you do need to watch it because you don't want to boil all your good broth out of there either. It is smelling so good. I don't know if you can see, but the aroma from it is just wonderful. And I'm going to let it go just a little bit more. And also what's going to be good is we're going to release some of the orange taste into the product. But at the end, I am going to take the oranges back out because we don't want them in there. But what it's going to do is give a wonderful flavor. So it's starting to boil now. So I'm going to let it boil and then just give it to a good boil. And then what I'm going to do is reduce the heat. And what I need to do is I need to cover it. So I'm going to get my lid and I'm going to cover it. And just let it reduce just a little bit. And it won't take long before I will take that lid off. And I'm going to go ahead, while I'm waiting on that to go, I'm going to go ahead and chop up the bok choy. Now I will tell you that you can eat part of the end of it too. So don't worry about that part of it. But also it has big leaves. So when I chop it, you know, I want to chop it, and you may want to see once you do it. And I'm going to chop it into small pieces too. So we're going to kind of do it like this. And if you feel like you want to chop it another way as far as crisscross, you can do that too. So I'm just going to keep chopping because I really want it to be small, and I'm probably going to go back with my knife and go the opposite way too. So I'm going to let that keep cooking. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it down because it looks like it's a really good boil. So I really want it to now kind of simmer a little bit. So I'm going to kind of cut the heat down just a little bit. And it looks like it's getting going at it. So I'm going to keep chopping. And I do want some of the real part of this because it's going to make it really nice and chewy. I think I'm going to cut just one more little section. And I am going to just set this to the side. And what I want to do is show you that if, you know, when you're cutting it, you're going to have long strips like this. So if you want to, of course, when it hits the water, it's going to also shrink up. But what you can do is go the opposite way and just kind of chop. Make sure you have it a little bit smaller because you do want it bite-sized pieces when people are picking it up. So you can just kind of do it that way. Let's see if I can get a little bit more on the leaves. And like I said, you can eat this raw. So, you know, if you want to twist on a salad or something like that, you can eat it that way also. So I have that ready. And that's probably been close to 5 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the chicken and the bok choy into it, and we're going to simmer just a little bit longer. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Take my lid off. It looks really, really good, and it is simmering just perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to the skillet. And it's already looking pretty already. Okay, I'm going to get the rest of this. And then I'm going to add my chicken. Now the rotisserie chicken, it's cool, so I want to get it heated back up. So that's the reason why I'm going to wait toward the end to also add it to the recipe. So I have that in there, and I'm just going to stir it around. And you notice we had all that liquid, looked really a lot of liquid, and now you'll see that I don't have as much liquid because it's going to reduce a lot just from putting the bok choy into it, and it's going to soak up some of that chicken broth too, and some of the onion's going to soak it up too. So we have that in. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cover it, and I'm going to let it go just a little bit longer, just like this. All right, so we have that on, and I can smell it right now. I can smell the green part of the bok choy in there, and it smells really, really, really good. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to wait it out. I'm going to crank it up just a little bit since I've added the cold chicken, just to get it going back again. I don't want to get it too high though, because really I'm just trying to get that chicken heated up. And then once we get that heated up, which won't take long, I'm going to end up adding the soy sauce is going to go toward the end. That's 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. We're going to add the 1/4 cup of the cilantro, and then we're also going to add the water chestnut. So we're going to add that to it. So as soon as I feel like the bok choy is a little tender, then I'm going to add the rest of it. So I'm going to stir it just a little bit more. Oh, and it smells so good. And it's a really pretty dish too. And if you haven't tried any bok choy, try it, because it does make wonderful soup, stir fries, and you're going to get loaded with nutrients by eating it too. So we're almost there. I see it kind of bubbling a little bit. I'm going to wait just a little bit longer. And I'm going to go ahead and add the water chestnuts to it, because I don't want to overcook. I want to get everything kind of blended together. So I'm going to add that next. Okay, we have the water chestnuts, and to me this is nice because it gives that nice crunch. And I'm going to add the cilantro, which is going to give it that nice flavor also. And I'm going to stir this around, and I'm not going to add the soy sauce yet. I'm just going to kind of stir this around, let it keep going, because I want to make sure it's well heated up, and also I want to make sure the chicken is heated up really well. All right, I'm going to put the lid back on again, and I am going to look at maybe putting a little bit more heat, but I think I'm going to try to clean up a little bit of my area up. I think I'll stick this in here. And you know, a lot of people like to eat celery just raw too, and you know, these are almost like the celery stalks. So you can still eat this part of it. You just want to make sure you wash it, which I have washed everything, but you do want to make sure you wash everything, because that's going to be important. This is boiling, and it's looking really, really good. So what I'm going to do now is add a little bit of the soy sauce to give it in a flavor so it's all mixed up together. And stir that around. And I want to drizzle it around because I really want to make sure it's getting all through there. Oh, and just the soy sauce really made a difference. I can really smell it. It smells really, really good. All right, so this is almost done. Put the lid back on, let it simmer just a little bit more. And so the recipe is extremely easy to make, and it's also healthy. You are eating a lot of good things in there that you're gonna, if you're trying to watch your diet, this is perfect if you're trying to watch your diet. So this is gonna just simmer just a little bit longer. And once it's simmered, if you want to, you can add a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. So you can just season it with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then it's ready to serve. And this is gonna serve about 8 people. So if you wanna come up with some other sides to go with it, that is perfect. So I am going to cut my temperature just down just a little bit because it is boiling and I don't want it to get too high, so I'm going to get really low on it and let it kind of cool down. So what you're looking at when you get done with the finished product, and I don't know if you can see this, but this is one of the onions, and you can say it's already translucent, which is really good. And that's what you're looking for in the onions once they start cooking also. So really this is pretty much done. The bok choy is also very tender. It is turned that bright green because you know when something hits that heat, it's going to turn that nice bright green. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and take the oranges out, and I'm going to discard those. And this just gives it a really nice flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and take those out. And you know, oranges are in season. When they get in season, they're going to be really tasty also in this. So this is something you can make all year round. So this is what we call chicken with steamed bok choy. So this is so easy. It smells wonderful, and I know you're going to want to try it. So we come back, we will be tasting this. So Frank and I will be tasting this, and I know he's going to love it. So we'll see you back in just a little bit on Garden Delights. Welcome back to Garden Delights. Well, Frank, this is going to be really tasty. It is chicken with bok choy.
It smells good.
It does. And you know, when I was cooking it, just the aroma smells really, really good.
And you know, we talked about our fall vegetable garden, but I don't think anybody's got any bok choy up there.
I know it. And you know, it grows more. I guess you would say more in the area where it's a little bit warmer, so we're going to say more of the California. Okay, we'll give you just a little bit more of that.
A little bit of juice.
All right, hold on.
All right, that'll
is that
work.
good? All right. I am so ready to try this. And make sure it's not too hot because I just got it off the stove and I really don't want you to burn your mouth. That is really good.
It is good.
I like the chestnuts with the water chestnuts with the crunch to them.
Makes me feel like I should have brought my chopsticks with me.
It is an Asian dish. Everything is really good and tasty. Now, one thing you don't see that I had in there was some orange wedges that you cook with the broth. But you never would know it, but it does give it a great flavor.
That's good. I may not have to eat any supper tonight.
Me too. That is really good and tasty. And that chicken is so good.
I needed a spoon though because I can't get my juice now.
There you go. Next time I'll give you a spoon. You're going to love this recipe. Check out the website because you're going to want to write it all down. And Frank and I will see you next time on Garden Delights.
All right. And keep working on those fall gardens.